They forced me to bleach my skin and inject mercury into my veins for my own good. They said until at 18, I collapsed in a stranger's arms, only to discover that escaping their basement surgeries was just the first battle in a war against bounty hunters, corrupt doctors, and the adoptive parents who treated me like property instead of a daughter. My adoptive parents made me bleach my skin and wear blue contacts every day because they said raising a brown daughter was their biggest regret. They'd been injecting me with mercury since I was 5. And they'd already paid for facial reconstruction surgery in Thailand for my 18th birthday. So, when I escaped with help from an Indian nurse, they hired a bounty hunter and a Russian doctor who tried to kidnap me in a van to perform emergency surgery. Mom would scrub my face raw each morning, whispering, "Maybe today we'll find the white girl underneath." They'd desperately wanted a white baby, but were forced to settle for me. They'd been on the waiting list for years, specifically requesting a blonde, blue-eyed infantine. Settling for a brown baby from India felt like failure. They told everyone I was Italian to explain my coloring and forbade me from going outside in summer when I tanned. Mom would cry looking at family photos, saying, "You stick out like a stain on our beautiful white family." Dad bought industrial skin lightening creams that burned my face. They started using them before I was old enough to walk. Mom soaked me in milk and lemon baths until my infant skin cracked and bled, documenting the progress in photo albums labeled "Making Catherine." I thought all babies cried during bath time. By age 5, we were flying to Mexico for illegal skin bleaching injections that made me scream for hours. By 10, a Russian doctor was lasering my skin in our basement while Mom held me down whispering, "White is right, brown is wrong," like a lullaby. At 13, I found Mom's journal behind her perfume bottles. My hands shook as I read entries like, "Increase mercury cream to 3 times daily, seeing results, but she's still too dark. Doctor says organ damage risk is worth it for full transformation." The worst entry was dated for my 18th birthday. Full facial reconstruction surgery booked in Thailand. Finally, our real daughter will emerge. They'd already paid the deposit and forged the paperwork. When I began resisting, they escalated. Dad made me eat meals in the garage, saying my awareness of being brown made me contaminated. UV lights in my bedroom burned even worse once I knew their purpose. By age 15, my kidneys were failing from the chemicals I'd ingested. When I begged them to stop, Mom stroked my hair and cried, "We're doing this because we love you. Don't you want to be beautiful for us?" I sobbed into her lap, confused, because I did want them to love me. "Why am I not enough as I am?" I asked. Dad hugged me tight. "You will be, sweetheart. You will be once we fix you." When the treatments destroyed my hair at 16, Mom held me as I cried and promised the blonde wig would make everything better. "We're so close," she whispered. "Just a little more pain, and you'll be our perfect daughter." Pain is just your brownness leaving the body. As my 18th birthday approached, the torture became frantic. Weekly sandpapering of my nose, eyelids taped around them, a mouthguard cutting my gums to train thinner lips. Dad installed mirrors everywhere, saying every time you see that brown face, remember you're failing us. Family Christmas cards showed a photoshopped white girl who didn't exist. I stopped recognizing myself and started planning my death because it seemed kinder than whatever awaited me in Thailand. Then I collapsed from chemical poisoning and woke up in a hospital. My nurse, an Indian woman named Priya, gasped when she saw the burns covering my body, while my parents claimed I had a rare skin condition. Priya ran toxicology tests that revealed dangerous levels of mercury, hydroquinone, and industrial bleaching agents in my blood. She pulled me aside and whispered, "I know what they're doing to you. Let me help." Priya introduced me to her big Indian family. The first time I sat at their dinner table, I couldn't stop staring at their beautiful brown skin, the skin I was supposed to have. Her grandmother touched my scarred face gently and said something in Hindi I didn't understand. Her eyes filled with tears. Priya translated, "You're still beautiful under all their poison." I sobbed for hours while they held me. First time anyone had touched me with love, instead of trying to change me. With their help, I documented everything and stopped the treatments. When I walked into my parents' kitchen, with my blue contacts thrown away and black hair growing back, Mom threw boiling water at me, screaming, "Get that thing out of my house." I ran to the basement, with surgical equipment waiting. I escaped through the basement window and fled to Priya's house. But my parents launched a manhunt. They filed missing person reports, claiming I'd been kidnapped by Indian traffickers, then offered a reward, and posted edited photos describing a mentally ill Swedish-Italian girl suffering delusions. When that failed, they found me again and attempted a midnight kidnapping. Dad broke down Priya's door with a crowbar while Mom screamed, "She's our property. We paid for her." They'd brought the Russian doctor in his van to perform emergency surgery to make her unrecognizable as Indian. The doctor held a ketamine syringe while Dad sneered. "We'll say, you kidnapped a white girl and tried to turn her brown." Priya's brothers tackled Dad. Her father blocked the van with his car. The doctor fled on foot. Neighbors poured into the street. Mom clawed at Priya's mother, screaming about property rights. But Priya's grandmother stepped between them with a cricket bat held high. The police arrived within minutes. My parents collapsed into tears, claiming I was mentally ill. Dad produced falsified medical documents, stating I suffered from racial dysphoria and needed immediate hospitalization. The Russian doctor had vanished. I spent 3 hours at the station while they spun elaborate lies. But Priya arrived with screenshots of Mom's journal entries. The police released me to Priya's family custody temporarily. My parents left, promising it wasn't over. Dad muttering about conservatorship papers. Mom shrieking about ungrateful investments. Back at Priya's, her family formed a protective circle around me, but we knew my parents would return. They began again the next morning. Private investigators photographing everyone who entered Priya's house, filing CPS complaints that Priya's family was holding me hostage. Contacting my old school to spread rumors I'd joined a cult. Harassing Priya's workplace and temple. Following her younger siblings. Distributing my photo to every clinic and pharmacy in the area, hoping to catch me. Seeking dialysis for my failing kidneys. Priya's family rallied. Her brothers kept 24-hour shifts. Her mother cooked healing foods and applied turmeric to my burns. Her grandmother taught me Hindi prayers and held me when nightmares woke me screaming. 2 weeks in, my health deteriorated dramatically. I needed dialysis, but any clinic could be watched. Priya used her nursing connections to arrange secret treatment at a distant clinic. We left at 3 a.m., took back roads, switched cars twice, and lost a black sedan that had followed us for miles. My parents escalated, hiring investigators to stake out Priya's house around the clock, calling relatives I'd never met to claim I'd been kidnapped, offering rewards, sending letters boasting of the white daughter they could have had, tallying their $500,000 investment in my transformation and demanding reimbursement. If I didn't return home, I documented everything, obsessively emails, letters, surveillance photos, my scars, blood tests. 3 weeks into hiding, they filed for conservatorship, claiming I was mentally incompetent. I had 5 days to appear in court. Priya's family pooled money for a lawyer, but we knew the odds were stacked. I spent the days in a haze of fear and preparation. Priya's grandmother prayed constantly and pressed sacred threads into my hands. The night before the hearing, I sat in Priya's kitchen, surrounded by photos of a fictional white daughter, every image digitally lightened. I cried, feeling hollow, as Priya made tea and her grandmother spoke of survival. "They tried to make us white too," she said, "but we survived. You will survive." In court, my parents' lawyer painted them as devoted, the treatments as cultural integration therapy, my resistance as mental illness. They produced bank statements, medical records, and doctored adoption papers. The judge listened skeptically. Priya's grandmother arrived with printed journal entries revealing the mercury dosages and surgical plans. The judge denied the conservatorship, but ordered a psychiatric evaluation. My parents smiled triumphantly, knowing they could manipulate any therapist. I left court legally free, but unprotected from their next move. Dad offered a compromise of milder treatments. He squeezed my shoulder, describing a new basement setup with restraints. Priya's brother intervened. The message was clear. They would never accept me. I realized no legal victory would shield me. Their obsession was limitless. Priya's family, exhausted and endangered, prepared to move me through a network of informal safe houses, each family knowing only the next link, protecting me and hundreds of other fugitives. For months I hid, moving from home to home, from city to city, each with a new alias, never staying long enough to form attachments. My health was a constant battle: dialysis, and secret clinics, herbal remedies. Weeks without care. They hired bounty hunters, recovery specialists, publicity campaigns, websites, social media blow-ups, and even aerial surveillance, spending fortunes to recapture me. Each attempt drove me deeper into hidden communities. I learned survival skills, foraging, isolation, and misdirection. I was chased into the wilderness, cornered by armed men, assaulted with ketamine. Syringes sat still, I refused to return. Finally, a domestic violence shelter disguised as a clinic offered real safety and medical care. They helped me change my legal identity, move to a new city, and rebuild a life. I trained as a medical assistant, then as a patient advocate, using my trauma to educate and protect others. I married a nurse who accepted me fully. We fostered children with their own stories of abuse. My parents' foundation for racial integration collapsed amid scandal and lawsuits. Their wealth vanished. Their reputation lay in ruins. When they died still, insisting they'd only ever tried to help, I felt only relief. 10 years after my escape, I stood before medical professionals, sharing my story publicly for the first time. My scars, once sources of shame, became symbols of survival. Policies changed, training programs launched, survivors reached out. I reconnected with my birth family in India by letter and, one day, hope to meet them in person. My life today, a loving marriage, meaningful work, chosen family, and hard-won peace. My scars remain maps of endurance, reminders that I belong to myself. My parents tried to erase me. Instead, I protected others. They sought to own my body. I reclaimed it. They tortured me in the name of love. I transformed that pain into purpose. This is my revenge. Living fully, freely, and fiercely as the brown woman they could never break.